Once again, Dr. Jim Henderson is University of Louisiana System President. Hey, Dr. Jim, welcome back to KEEL. Thank you for taking time for us.
Hey, good morning. It's always a pleasure.
So when the University of Louisiana System President, i.e. you, is looking at potential cuts to TOPS, to higher ed, to all sorts of things, what do you do? Were you on the phone a lot yesterday? Do you start, for lack of a better word, lobbying people? Do you call in markers? What exactly is your strategy in this situation?
Well, that's a great question. Of course, I never lobby as a public servant. We always advocate, which is, come on, that's a euphemism. But yesterday we had all 9 of our university presidents in town to have conversation with legislators to really give them information, to inform them with the impact of the decisions that they're making. And they're very receptive to that. And we have legislators that come from both sides of the aisle in terms of their philosophy on taxation and the size of government, from all from the whole spectrum of those in terms of support for higher education, and they listen. And I'll be honest, yesterday and this weekend, I saw a little bit more bipartisanship than maybe we've been used to over the last couple of years.
But Dr. Jim, it still looks like the budget bill that came out of the appropriations cuts colleges and universities about $25 million. Can you give us some examples of what that will mean?
Yeah. Well, first, you understand that colleges and universities in Louisiana already operate at the lowest resource base per student in the country. So we're already behind our competitors. And when you look at it from any kind of measures, you can look at it as state support per capita, where we spend $85 less per capita than they do in Alabama, and $84 less per capita than they do in Arkansas. And here's the one that surprises people: $22 less per capita in this huge state just to our west called Texas that has this huge advantage called economies of scale. And so, we've long underinvested in higher education. But what I'll tell you is it's progress, because when the day started yesterday, colleges and universities were being cut $96 million.
Whoa.
So we made up $70 million of that in one day. And I think that as we continue to work with legislators, continue to show them the return on investment you get from talent development, we can close that gap, and we can close the $26 million gap that still remains with TOPS.
If we don't, does that mean we lay off people? We shut some programs down at universities? And I know you don't want to be like the governor and throw out these, nursing home patients are going to go to the curb. But what kind of examples of programs right here? Let's deal with LSU Shreveport. What kind of programs here could be impacted?
Well, what you'll see is fewer course opportunities. You might see it take longer for someone to graduate simply because a course is not available. You'll see faculty that will remain underpaid, underremunerated, especially compared to our southern region peers. And you'll just see the prolonging of this lack of investment that we have in higher education. So when you get to numbers like this, it's not the drastic impact. What it is, it's just the death by 1,000 cuts. We've got to stop that. I promise you, our competitors are responding to the new demands of the 21st century economy, where automation is prolific, where artificial intelligence is replacing jobs that have been bread and butter in Louisiana. If we don't develop our people, remember, the foundation of workforce development, of economic development, of community development is human development. And we've got to reflect that in our budget decisions and in our investment.
I think you'd be the first to say, we've talked about this before, that the way things are funded by state government in Louisiana is rather, it's very complex. Fair enough?
It is too, yeah.
At some point in the midst of all this, could the state legislature, could you find yourself trying to decide, or at least where to throw your weight and influence, as it were, where it's TOPS funding versus college funding?
Yeah, I got asked that question in committee just last week. I went to the table, wasn't asked. I just wanted to provide some information. That's a false choice. TOPS is a decision the state made that said for students that have demonstrated merit, and you can debate what demonstrating merit means, but we have those criteria already defined in state law. So students that demonstrate merit, we're going to provide funding that covers a portion of their cost of going to college. So that's a student scholarship-focused spending priority. The other side is how much do we support our colleges and universities? They're two separate questions. We link them together because it's convenient and because they're similar, but it's a false choice to say we're going to do one or the other. We have to do both.
You sound like you're optimistic, though, that they're going to work this out.
I will be optimistic until the last day, and that's the only way to operate in this environment. You can't get too excited with good news, but you also can't get too depressed and panic at the bad news. You have to continue to work the problem.
And what is your message to your staff and all the people at the universities around the state? What is your I guess you have to say, because July 1's going to be here, you have to say prepare for the worst, hope for the best, right?
Well, I actually tell them to let's make the best happen, because they have a role to play. It's our students are heavily engaged in messaging. Our faculty and staff are heavily engaged in messaging. You know, this last year we brought the presidents together of these 9 universities, these distinct universities all have their own mission, their own history, their own traditions. And they said collectively we're going to produce the most educated generation in Louisiana's history. We're going to drive economic growth through public-private partnerships. We're going to recruit, retain, and develop the world-class faculty that enrich our communities. They did this with 1 year of stability, and it created an environment of excitement and responsiveness and creativity and innovation amongst our faculty and our students. We're going to make sure that continues. We're going to use that. We're going to leverage that to influence the outcomes in this legislative session. I know we can be successful, and I know that right-minded people, and the vast majority of them, want to do what's best for Louisiana. They're going to come to the realization that investment in talent development is absolutely essential to our future competitiveness.